I will now call to order the March 20th, 25 Clackamas County Board of County Commissioners business meeting. County Administrator Gary Schmidt, would you please call the roll for us?
Yes, Chair, thank you. First, our staff support today, County Counsel Jane Vedo, Clerk to the Board Andrew Jaraki. Commissioner West is out of the office today. Roll call, Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Present.
Chair Roberts.
Here. All right, would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. Well, good morning, everyone. And we have a wonderful turnout. And so thank you all for taking time to come here this morning. And one of the things that we did was we had switched to have citizen comment come up first. So we weren't going to make you sit through a lot of other business portions of this. So right now, what we're going to do is testimonies limited to 3 minutes. And I'd ask that your concerns be respectful and courteous to all. As a reminder, you can also email submissions for public communication at bcc@clackamas.us. And these will be accepted as a part of the public record. And I will now open the meeting for public testimony. I will take in-person testimony first. And Clerk, would you go ahead and kick it off and moderate the testimony? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Welcome, everyone. If you would like to speak today during the public comment portion, I'll ask you to please fill out a blue card that can be found by the entrance to the room and place it in the basket. I will call on you in the order of the cards that I've received. I also ask that please come forward 2 at a time. I will read 2 names. Please come forward. Each person will have 3 minutes to introduce themselves and share their topic, and then I'll call the next 2. Thank you. Our first 2 names, Stephen Hunter. Stephen Hunter is first, and Katie Knutson. Katie Knutson. Stephen Hunter and Katie Knutson, please come forward. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
You say that now.
It's always a good morning when you're vertical, I always say.
Any day I wake up is a good morning.
There you go.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Stephen Hunter. I reside in Wilsonville. My comment today is to express my exasperation with your ill-conceived and unnecessary plans for finding a replacement commissioner for seat number 4. The people have already told you who the replacement is on November 4th. But collectively, all of you have decided to disregard the will of over 88,000 Clackamas County residents. I am registered as a non-affiliated voter. I dare say I am the most nonpartisan person in this room. I would support assigning the second place finisher to a hotly contested election race irregardless of their party affiliation, especially since the appointment of the first place finishers was a mere 42 work days ago. I repeat, 42 days. Oregonians are very distrusting of their voting system and their politicians. The actions you have committed to will certainly increase their skepticism and distrust. Opening an application period for replacement candidates, then deciding by yourselves that's only 4 votes out of 315,000 registered voters who will be the grand prize winner of the $100,000 annual prize plus benefits is deplorable. During Tuesday's policy session, I heard disturbing comments from multiple commissioners about public input they had received regarding the replacement for commission seat number 4. Comments referring to angry sentiment expressed towards or regarding individuals or process, and comments regarding copy and paste format letters. Ladies and gentlemen, these are your constituents and your employers. Emotion and passion are very high right now, and by disparaging any contact by letter, email, or phone call is disrespectful and demeaning. It also shows gross disrespect and an unprofessional attitude on your part. I too am passionate about the road this board has taken in the replacement process to seemingly fulfill your own desires and ambitions for a replacement commissioner and completely disregard the most common sense, logical, and economical solution available to the county. Shame on all of you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Ms. Knutson, go ahead, please.
Thank you. My name is Katie Knutson, and I am a Clackamas County employee and member of the EA Union. I'd like to express my support for our union and its members today as we continue to wait for a fair contract. I grew up watching Mr. Rogers, and to this day I look up to him for his ability to unify and bring folks together in the light that he brought to this world during very divided times like today. As a young boy, this is a quote from Mr. Rogers, as a young boy, I would see scary things in the news, and my mother would say to me, look for the helpers. You will find people who are always helping. I share this quote because this is who our EA members are. We are the helpers. We're the ones on the front lines responding during severe weather events, public health disasters, working to house people and keep them housed, provide critical health care to very vulnerable communities. We are a lifeline for seniors, folks with disabilities, veterans, and people struggling with substance use in Clackamas County. Some of these employees are staffing overnight shelters and working on weekends to keep the community safe. I'm a mother of two, and I work very late on weekdays, like last night, I was out in Malala, and on weekends to provide life-saving education in the community. We are tired, we're burned out, and we continue to wait for a fair contract. Please do what is needed to keep this life-saving and critical work going for Clackamas County residents. And please value the helpers that you employ here at the county. We are asking for something that is fair. The retro COLA that we are owed has been previously budgeted for. Please do what is right, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Katie.
Next, Cynthia B. Next, could Cynthia B come forward? Cynthia B and Abigail Garrett. Cynthia B and Abigail Garrett. Please come forward, introduce yourselves, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi,
Hi,
my name
good
is
morning.
Cynthia, and I think it's super important for me to be here today to help speak for the Employees Association Union. So I am here, like I said, supporting the EA Union. Sorry, super nervous. So I've lived in Clackamas County for over 50 years. I went through the education system here, the first 2 years of college here. I really love Clackamas County. So my husband and I raised our 5 children here, and all of us pay property taxes in Clackamas County and vote for Clackamas County issues and elected officials. I was so excited to start my career working for the county that I love and help my community members in any way that I could and be a voice for them when needed. I noticed a big change in morale a few years ago from my colleagues, and this has only increased with each passing year. Clackamas County employees are leaving their jobs in record numbers to work for other counties or to work in the private sector where they feel more valued and will earn higher wages. Many of the comments I hear from folks before they leave is that while they think that their overall benefits are good, they are not able to pay their bills or put food on the table with the benefits that they receive. And this has been a huge struggle for many of the families of the employees that work for Clackamas County, and they are now forced to utilize the county services that we provide. I see signs up all over the Clackamas County buildings and on the lawns saying, "You matter." And while I do believe Clackamas County does matter, and Clackamas County officials do care about the community members, many Clackamas County employees do not feel as though that they matter or that their management team or county leadership care for them or that they think that they matter as well. So Clackamas County employs more than 1,300 folks who are covered under the Employees Association Union. Our more than 1,300 Clackamas County employees work in departments like facilities, the mailroom, technology services, payroll, healthcare, dental, healthcare, I said that, mental health, administrative services, social services, housing, and many other departments within Clackamas County. So I'm here as a voice for all of our more than 1,300 members of Clackamas County employees, that all 1,300 of us do matter, our opinions matter, and we stand united in solidarity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Garrett, go ahead, please.
Hello, my name is Abigail Garrett, a 26-year-old Clackamas County native, proud Clackamas County employee, a part of the CCEA union, a mom, a full-time student, and so much more. I'm here today to talk to you about the current standing of our union contract and the lack of understanding this board is showing not only to their staff members, but also their Clackamas County residents. I currently work for Clackamas County Health Centers in the dental department. I have dedicated myself to providing outstanding patient care, empowered by the dedication that Clackamas County has to the overall health of those that we serve. However, in light of what is happening around us with our union having to fight for the back pay we deserve, the fair pricing of health insurance other unions receive, and the fair sick leave for employees who are contracted to work 10-hour days, my light and passion for my work is dimming. And although I'm not just here because of the benefits of working for Clackamas County, but for getting to serve the community that helped to raise me, I believe that you are treating us unfairly. It should sadden you to know that someone who is dedicated to her work is feeling burnt out because of constantly having to fight all of you for what I deserve as your employee. A bit of a backstory so you can understand where I'm coming from. At age 18, I found that I was pregnant with my first child and scared for what the future might hold for us. When researching what I could go back to school for, I read a book entitled Teeth, and it opened my eyes not only to public health, but to public health dentistry and the importance that we hold within our communities. In the book, it discusses the story of a young boy dying miles away from the Capitol building in Washington because of the lack of dental care for an infection. How horrible to know that my son and I were walking into a life that could have ended up like that family, losing a son because there was no care being provided for them on that day. Now I want to ask all of you, are you willing to sit back and wait for one of your families in your community to find themselves in this same situation because the health centers are shut down for a week, a month, or even longer? Are you going to be able to sleep at night knowing that you could have prevented a potential strike by sitting down and being understanding to your employees and giving this hardworking union what they deserve? Or are you going to sit back and wait for a family to experience the same type of travesty because you are unwilling to budge on a few of the things we are asking for? Your next meeting is scheduled with my union on Monday, March 24th. I would expect that if I can take the time to be here today, prepared with this speech, that you can find time to become prepared to bargain a fair and ethical union contract for us. Clackamas County will always be my home, and I would like to continue to serve it.
Thank you.
Next, Don Miller and Alex Gonzalez. Don Miller and Alex Gonzalez. Next, Don Miller and Alex Gonzalez. Don Miller and Alex Gonzalez, please come forward. You'll have 3 minutes each. Thank you.
Board, welcome. Gary, everyone. As you guys probably know, my name's Don Miller. I'm a longtime employee of Clackamas County. I started back in the 1900s, 1997. 1997 to be exact, with the Housing Authority of Clackamas County. I retired last year in September. I didn't want to leave, but I had to because of management. I couldn't work another day. I've had discussions with Gary, and Gary is great. It's not Gary. Gary's very good at his job. I've had the honor and opportunity to work with Gary in the union personally, and thank you, Gary. With that said, I have a very good understanding of Clackamas County. I've served for the union for over 25 years. I've been on the grievance committee, negotiating committee for bargaining. I was the vice president for 12 years and the current president until I retired last September. This is not going to be direct dealing or bargaining. This is going to be statements and facts. Alex Gonzalez is now our new president. Thank you, Alex. As for the COLA, our members are due and deserve their cost of living back to July 1st of last year. I'm aware of what I call the arbitrary date I call as of December 24th, or December 31st of 24 to settle the contract. That was literally impossible. Due to the end of the year, Christmas, winter breaks, a lot of members wouldn't even be able to vote, and I don't even believe there was a red line contract to vote on, and plus, the commissioners were on recess. Also, with that said, in regards to time and time off when people were on vacations, you probably all are aware it's a fact that all non-represented employees, managers, and supervisors get 16 hours of vacation. Labor gets 12. There hasn't been an increase since January of 2001. That's almost 25 years. Not a day, not a minute, not a second, 0. I don't know what, I'm going to use the word entitlement. What entitles managers and non-reps to deserve more time with their families than our members? That's not right. Along with that said, there's also sick time. For example, I believe most of the people work 40 hours a week, or they work a 4-day work week, which I did. Every month you earn it. It's not just an accrual, you earn that sick time. I didn't even earn enough to take 1 day off if I was sick or my family members. No one wants to be sick, but sickness does happen. I think that it should be upped a little bit. And along with that, when we're talking about sick time, there's also the Kaiser premiums. They're paying over $300. Everyone else has got their cost of livings. They're getting all of their premiums paid. They have not received their cost of livings. They're paying out of pocket additionally for their premiums. It's just not right. It's not fair. It's wrong with a capital W, in my opinion. With that said, I've heard from the commissioners many a times, the most valuable asset Clackamas County has is their employees. Show them that, because you're not showing them that, I don't believe. And lastly, with all due respect to each and every one of you, you're all elected officials, elected in your positions, and I respect that. With that said, next time voting comes, you could also be voted out. Thank you.
Mr. Gonzalez, go ahead, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for having me today. My name is Alex Gonzalez, and I'm the current union president for the Clackamas County Employees Association. We represent well over 1,300 employees here at the county, everyone from doctors to nurses to tech services to facilities employees. Firstly, I want to acknowledge County Administrator Gary Schmidt on his follow-up regarding the situation over vacation and sick time, either being denied or placed on indefinite hold. Shortly after the last BCC meeting, Gary reached out, I explained the details, and he said he would look into it. Since then, I've had fewer reports of members regarding their sick time, vacation time requests being denied or indefinitely put on hold. So, Gary, thank you. We've had a few, but we've been resolving them as they come up. We will continue to reach out to Gary as needed, and again, thank you for that. However, I want to expand on a bigger issue surrounding this, which is communication. At the last last BCC meeting, you all seemed caught off guard by some of the workplace issues that were raised. This is concerning, especially right now as we have an ongoing unfair labor practice complaint against the county and are in contract mediation over an expired contract. I want to make sure that you're all aware of the workplace issues happening here at the county. Last week, we had members reach out to us because they were denied their wine garden rights by managers in a few departments. When a union member is being questioned and it might lead to discipline, the member has a legal right to ask for a union representative in the meeting. We are aware of recent cases where that request has been denied. We've also learned that managers are telling members that they know how employees filled out their Gallup workplace poll, which was supposed to be anonymous. The county expressed to the CCEA that it wanted members to fill out the survey and it would be anonymous. We assured our members that it would be anonymous based off the county's representations and encouraged them to fill that out. Now we have members who are being put in fear of their managers. We need our members to feel safe working here at the county without fear of retaliation against management. I genuinely believe you care about what happens here at the county, but may not understand the problems our members face every day. Managers here are not required to go through any management training at all and often act without regard to county policy, laws, collective bargaining agreements. We are left trying to help our members in the aftermath, including trying to convince them to stay here at the county instead of quitting. This brings us to major issues regarding retention, a serious issue with members here at the county. More than half of our 1,300 members have been with the county less than 5 years. The county used to be a great place to work, but over time our jobs have fallen behind to other counties and cities in wages, benefits, while our workloads have increased because of high turnover. We hope to fix the high turnover rate during bargaining by making wages and benefits more competitive here. As you know, we have been in contract mediation with the county on a contract that expired July 1st, 2024. We hope to make significant progress this week to closing that contract. The package proposal we received last night from the county, which still does not include full retro pay, makes it doubtful that the contract will close without a strike, which is deeply disturbing. Retro pay is particularly important for contract resolution for all labor unions. In our contracts historically, as some of the commissioners should know, our CBAs with the county have not settled until mediation and are usually not until spring or summer after the contract is expired, that is, this time period right now. The county has always paid retro COLA as part of that contract settlement, but in this contract mediation, the county continues to refuse retro COLA. Our asks aren't extreme. They're modest and will improve retention rates here at the county and the quality of life for our members. This will have a direct impact in productivity and retention and recruitment for the county. Chair Roberts expressed interest in making Clackamas County competitive as an employer in this region. Our next mediation session is scheduled for Monday, March 24th. We hope that you can find the time to be there to respond to our proposals, should the county's bargaining team need guidance for you all. I realize I've gone over, I apologize, but thank you for your time.
Next, Paul Edgar and Nancy Slavin. Paul Edgar and Nancy Slavin. Please come forward. You each have 3 minutes.
Good morning. Good morning. My name's Paul Edgar. I'm a resident of Oregon City, and I've been very honored to be on your Community Action Board, Veteran Advisory Council, and Historic Review Board for the county. I'm coming before you today to relate, and particularly, Craig, you could understand this. I'm talking to the Chief of Police of Oregon City last night. We don't have a drop-off place, shelter housing place for somebody in crisis, dysfunctional, homeless, addicted, mental health crisis. There's not one place in Clackamas County right now other than the jail where somebody could go. And that's unacceptable. I'm speaking for myself. All I know is when I was EMT trained in the military, there's triage. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. We need moments initially before somebody even gets to a point to go into treatment, where we can have them in a safe place where with proper case management. The Veteran Village has an 80% success rate, clean and sober place. We could do that with minimum shelters. These things can cost $5,000, $6,000 per building that can be lifted up and moved around with a lift truck. We have old facilities that were part of the police department in Oregon City that buildings that they used for showers and everything, the city's willing to repurpose those if the county is. I've talked to the mayor of Oregon City repeatedly about location. We have a caring place that has been funded by the county with the Homeless Coalition of Oregon City. That's going to go in, proposed to go in next to where Miles Plastic was. But there's no housing with it. There's nothing about, we put Band-Aids on, people go out the door, the Band-Aid falls off. I'm a retired businessman. There's no ROI to what we're doing. And somewhere along the line, we have to start improving our percentages of people. When I met Oregon City Together, the organization representing the Oregon City School District, and we're talking about drugs and keeping drugs out of the hands of kids. But most of the time, it's the dysfunction of the parents and the lack of parental guidance up front. And we have 120 kids houseless in Oregon City High School. These are people without supervision, and we don't have places. And somewhere along the line, I'm just pleading with you, as somebody at this point in my life, I'm all about trying to make a better world and save lives.
And thank you.
And this is so I want you to please make some decisions.
And hopefully can address some of those at the conclusion. But thank you very much for your inputs. Thank you.
Ms. Slavin, go ahead, please.
Chair Roberts, Commissioners Schrader and Savas, it's good to see you again. My name is Nancy Slavin. I live, work, parent, pay taxes, and do full-time care work in Oregon City. I'm here today to make sure you recognize that through a fair democratic election, the majority of people did in fact vote out 2 former commissioners, and consideration of their applications by those 2 individuals in particular is not in their best interest. But what I'm really here today is to ask you to remember that we voted you in, Chair Roberts, and you, Commissioner Schrader, in the last election because of your campaign promise, in particular, Craig Roberts, to reinstate the Office of Equity and Inclusion, which I realize is much more dicey now. But we also voted for you, and I voted for you, believing you were the best choice to be in service to the wellness of children, to find housing for unhoused citizens, to find the funding for these awesome county workers sitting behind us, to listen to and be led by community groups like mine and the ones I organize with to stop police violence, and otherwise meet the myriad needs of our county's residents and visitors alike. It's a huge job you have, and I respect it. I want this county to be a place where all people feel welcome, regardless of their immutable traits, where hate crimes are not supported by people sitting on the dais under the guise of making America great again, when anyone who has read a small amount of our county's history or studied a modicum of U.S. legal and policy evolution knows that Indigenous people, women, Black people, immigrants, gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual, poor, and working class people have not had equal access to the notion that all men are created equal. I ask you to study the important report put together by the Coalition of Communities of Color that you and many other groups funded 4 years ago, Cultivating Belonging in Clackamas County. There's very clear actions in here laid out in the document, as well as an excellent model of research justice to guide you so that you can implement change and create actual belonging. Appointing people who supported actions that are on the wrong side of progress in our evolution is really not what we elected you to do. I'm concerned about local people getting enough to eat, to have stable, safe, and warm shelter, to access transportation in accessible and fair ways. I'm concerned about climate-related emergencies and who's going to take care of those in our county, and whether just human beings can walk down the street or a school hallway here without being called a racial slur, a homophobic name, seeing a Nazi swastika, or belittled for their size and ability. I have the privilege of having all my basic needs met my whole life. I've had many advantages. I want my neighbors to have the same. Please do the right thing and thoughtfully interview and appoint a new commissioner who will work with you to do what we elected you to do. Thank you.
Next, P. Ramirez, and Natalie Lutmer. P. Ramirez and Natalie Lutmer, please come forward. You'll each have 3 minutes. Mr. Ramirez, go ahead, please.
You got it. Mi nombre es Patricio Ramírez y estoy con la Asociación de Empleados. In inglés, every county worker and covered by the Employee Association contracts, whether they are a dues-paying member in good standing or not, is suffering a 4.1% loss in pay, dating back to the 1st of July, 2024. That's last year, folks, last year. I'm a regular member on the EA negotiating team, and this county has a long-standing practice to fill their side of the bargaining table with people that have zero authority. Meaning they have to seek permission from others at a later date, of course, to continue the meetings and get answers to our proposals, which clearly drags out the process. And the whole time the workers work, at a loss in pay like we are now since last year. This understandably, in my opinion, it makes people unhappy and angry, very angry. I'll leave you with this. There's a lot of talk about a strike. It's everywhere around the county. And people equate strike with no pay. I'll have you know that all county workers covered under the EA contracts, whether union paying dues members in good standing or not, that have the Kaiser Health Plan insurance, have been on strike for about 1 day a month due to the hundreds of dollars they have to pay every month because of this county's ULP. And that means unfair labor practice. Unlike the storytellers that are present in this room that will say nonsense, you can look up the ULPs for yourself. Eso es todo.
Yep. Yeah, I just want to interject one thing. I want to make sure everybody gets their 3 minutes. So if you could just hold your applause to the end, because I want to make sure that they get their opportunity to say. And I know they stop and they're cheering you on, but just if you could just hold your applause to the end, I'd sure appreciate it. Thank you.
Ms. Lutmer, go ahead, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. Again, this is my 8th time back here since January, highlighting the issues that are occurring with the EA union, including that Kaiser monthly premium, going from what was promised, the $88.46 to the $303.20 for the EA union members. I had a thought this week about when you are making these decisions regarding the union contract and the types of things that you're offering, these are things that affect your work life. These are work decisions for you. After work, you go home, you eat your dinner, you pay your bills, you spend time with your family. But for the EA members, the decisions you are making at work are affecting their home lives. We now have to go home and worry about paying our rent, paying our bills, how many groceries are going to buy. That's why our perspectives are different. The perspective we have is our home and personal lives are affected. The decisions you're making are your work lives. So the budget for fiscal year 24-25 with personnel costs, including the COLA, should have been effective on July 1st, 2024. It was approved by the board on June 20th of 2024. So on December 17th, the board decides to draw a line in the sand, making clear that if the contract is not settled by December 31st, the EA will lose that retro pay COLA, the COLA that was budgeted for and approved in June of 2024. Never once was the Kaiser premium increase mentioned. So the board immediately goes on recess after that December 17th meeting, so no further bargaining can even happen on the issues that are important to the EA members before the end of the year. And then we get that nice little surprise email. At the last meeting that we had, Ms. Veto read off an email that she said was sent to the union. I noticed there was no date on there. I would be interested as to what the date of that email was. So at our last meeting, our union president asked you to make yourself available for the next mediation session that was held on March 17th. Here's a quote from the CCEA union Instagram about that session. The county's negotiating team once again maintained that they do not have the authority to make decisions and insisted that they needed to consult with the Board of County Commissioners. Okay, so do you even know how many mediation sessions have occurred since January? Are you aware of all of them? Because at the last meeting, Commissioner Schrader wasn't even aware of the status of bargaining. She had to ask. A mediation session had just been held 3 days earlier, and she didn't know where things were at. So for months, I have been using my personal vacation time. I have had my time cards scrutinized to make sure I was being upfront about that time, which I was. And I have been pleading with you to prioritize this. And I'm telling you, the optics are seeming that you are not even informed enough to know the current status or see that progress is made in this and that this gets resolved. You say you care about the employees. You say they're important. I'm going to say your actions are speaking louder than your words. Please make this a priority. This trust in our leadership has been damaged. Pay attention. Attend the next session. I know you can't bargain, but you can be there and be available to make these decisions and get this settled. Thank you.
Next is Carrie Vanderkovering. Carrie Vanderkoving and Erica Honto. Carrie Vanderkoving and Erica Honto, please come forward. You'll have 3 minutes each.
I am Carrie Vanderkoovering. I have been, I'm the current EA Vice President, and I've also been in bargaining since last year when we started in January. I was not necessarily prepared to speak today, so forgive me if this is kind of all over the place. I wrote it very quickly before I came up, but I'm not only an employee, but I've also lived in Clackamas County my entire life, and I still do to this day. And as a little girl, I helped my family canvass for the very people sitting in those chairs today. I remember at 5 years old hanging campaign flyers and putting up yard signs for Roberts for sheriff. My family has attended many campaign events for multiple commissioners over the years, including Schrader. I've worked for the county for 20 years, and I have never seen staff morale as low as it is now. The divide between leadership and the employees who serve this community has never been greater. Over the past several years, we watched leadership positions, some of the most costly positions in the entire county, multiply, some with little to no staff reporting to them, while frontline employees are stretched thinner than ever. What are those managers and supervisors even doing? And when I have asked the question specifically, what does this staff do? I have heard the response, we're figuring it out. Programs that operated efficiently for years with just one manager now have 2, sometimes more, yet the number of direct service staff has remained unchanged, or in some cases has even decreased. How does that make sense? And where is all that money coming from? Why do administrative offices that once functioned with 1, 2, or maybe 3 people now have 10 or more? These positions do not serve the residents on a daily basis. Yet we continue hiring more top-level staff without expanding services to the citizens. Someone needs to take a serious look at the number of administrative and leadership positions that have been added in recent years and continue to be added to this day, while essential programs remain understaffed and underfunded. Leadership should be ensuring that resources go where they are needed the most, to the employees who are serving the people of Clackamas County. Now, the union is not asking for a lot, and let's be clear, the COLA is not a bonus, it's not a raise. It's not a reward. It's a necessary adjustment to help employees keep up with the rising costs of living. These funds were budgeted and approved by the commissioners and the budget committee and allocated for employee wages well before the contract even expired. If you are not going to pay the retro COLA, then I would like to know, where is that money going? If it was already accounted for in the budget, but you are withholding it from employees, what will it be used for instead? More leadership positions? Bigger bonuses? Receiving retroactive COLA and a few additional hours of leave, as you know, it's all we're asking for. Nothing excessive, nothing unreasonable. Just to be treated fairly as other unions have been. All we are asking is to be paid retroactively to July 1, as well as all the other unions have within the county. And we would like some additional leave to bring us more in line with the government employees elsewhere, and that they already have. This is not a costly demand. In fact, what we are asking for would not cost the county anything beyond what has already been budgeted for, again, well before the contract expired. The funds were already allocated, the numbers were accounted for, and yet here we are, having to fight for something that was already planned and approved. This is not about pushing for more. It's about ensuring that employees receive the basic fairness and respect they deserve. Employees are here because they care. They stay because they love what they do and are dedicated to helping the most vulnerable members of our community. Throughout ongoing conversations with our nearly 1,400 members, one concern that keeps coming up if we were to vote to strike is, what about my clients? Employees aren't worried about their own financial loss during a potential strike. They're worried about the residents who depend on them. How will the clients get what they need? What if my client has an emergency and no one is here to help them? This should tell you everything you need to know about the people working for this county. They're here for the residents. They are not staying for the leadership or the treatment they receive. I ask you to take a step back and truly consider the work these employees do every day to improve the lives of your constituents. These are the people ensuring vital services are available to the residents who need them the most. We should not be at odds with each other. If the union were demanding extravagant perks or unreasonable benefits, I could understand hesitation at the bargaining table, but that's not the case. Employees are simply asking for fairness, for respect, and for the ability to continue serving this community without being stretched beyond their limits.
Thank you.
Ms. Honto, go ahead, please.
Hello, my name is Erica, and I've been with the county for over 3.5 years, and I am a CCEA member. Over the course of my time here, I have never wavered in my pride for the county that I work for. When people ask me if I liked where I worked, I would respond that I love it. Now, when people ask me if I still love where I work, I instead tell them that during the holiday season and with little notice, the county decided to increase my healthcare premium by $214.74. That the county decided, in essence, that I should take a pay cut. With a single email, the county destroyed my trust and, along with it, my pride for my employer. I've now learned that the county does not want to pay me for wages I have earned from July until now. So not only have I taken a pay cut with my health insurance premium, wages that I have earned are now being taken from me. No longer can I tell friends who are looking for a place to work that this would be a great place for them. How could I possibly recommend a place that has shown they have no integrity? The only pride I have now is for my union and our members. I am so incredibly proud of each and every member who has come to these meetings to make their voice heard, and I am so incredibly proud to be standing in solidarity with my union as we fight for what we deserve. Healthcare is a human right, and the county has decided to make it more difficult for employees to access. I know that you will say that the county is willing to reimburse members for what they have paid, but reimbursement does not pay our bills now. Reimbursement does not feed our families now. But your action in resolving this can. Thank you for your time, and I hope you are moved by what you have heard today.
Before I move to the final two blue cards that I've received, I'd just like to remind folks that if you are attending the business meeting in person today and would like to speak during public comment and have not had the opportunity to do so yet, please fill out a blue card and place it in the basket by the door. The final two blue cards that I have received so far today are Derek Marquez and Leah Brower. Would Derek Marquez and Leah Brower please come forward? Thank you. Mr. Marquez, go ahead, please.
Okay. Hello, my name is Derek Marquez. I've been working for the Housing Authority for about 3.5 years now. I've worked for other governmental agencies in the past, but had found that pay and compensation were generally much better in the private sector. However, about 5 years ago, a good friend of mine went to work for Clackamas County and began encouraging me to apply for a job here as well, telling me what a great place it was to work for. After listening to the rave reviews for the better part of a year, I finally did apply and began working for the Housing Authority. Since that time, I've found that the county has been a good place to work and that the employees who make Clackamas County run are some of the most knowledgeable, professional, and dedicated individuals that it's ever been my privilege to work with, routinely going above and beyond for the citizens of the county that we serve. I found myself regularly encouraging people that I know to apply for jobs with the county, saying what a great place it was to work and what a great group of people to work with. But as the current contract negotiations have drug on and the county's bargaining tactics have become increasingly heavy-handed, I find myself no longer encouraging others to apply here, instead steering them to other companies and other local agencies that treat their employees with more respect. I understand that some of the county's actions are bargaining strategies, but negotiations are supposed to be a give and take. When one side refuses to give anything and instead just keeps offering less and less, it sends a message to the employees that we are not valued by the county. Dropping burdensome new Kaiser premiums on employees with virtually no notice during the waning hours of 2024 seems less like a bargaining tactic and feels more like a playground bully twisting your arm behind your back and demanding you cry uncle. When the county keeps sending negotiators to mediation sessions that are not empowered to negotiate anything, they aren't negotiating in good faith, but rather needlessly delaying the process and wasting everyone involved's time. I know that the commissioners are smart, and I have to believe that you want to keep the best people working here, providing the highest quality of service. So I encourage the commissioners to do what needs to be done to wrap up these contract negotiations so that we can all get back to work for the people of Clackamas County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Bauer, go ahead, please.
All righty. I have some materials here. Is it all right if I put them here for your reading pleasure? It's a very good sign, I know.
Nice.
Hello, Commissioners, Chair Roberts. Thank you for being here today. My name is Leah Brower, and I am a CCEA employee and one of your voters. I'm here today in support of the Employees Association and to address the continued gridlock on our union contract agreement. I've worked for the county for about 2 years, and I absolutely love the work that I do. The EA represents folks in health centers like myself and my amazing teammates, who together we get to provide low-cost dental treatment and access to primary care and mental health care treatment that our community desperately needs. The EA represents medical assistants and therapists and folks in the housing department that are working to get people off the streets and into safety, and others, so many others, who carry out the critical functions that our county has been directed to do by the taxpayers. I know, commissioners, that you are well aware of the work that the EA does, and I just want everyone in this room to understand what the folks at the back are having to step away from to be here. We chose a life in public service, most of us knowing there would be sacrifices along the way to make our community a better place to live. But when we had our healthcare premiums increased 287% with days to respond, that took from our ability to provide care for our community. And when an employer suddenly starts taking deductions out of your paycheck with no written authorization, there's a word for that. But what I'll call it, maybe not what a lawyer would call it, but what I will call it is a complete breach of trust and a predatory bargaining tactic. And I would love to be able to say to my young professional friends, come, work for the county, start a life in public service. It's great. But how can I when right now it has resulted in lost wages, time, and stress? Every day that we continue to have to fight for changes which have already been budgeted for is a day that is a waste of my time and your time and the taxpayers' time and money. And to be at the point where extremely dedicated public servants are stepping away from providing critical services it's a stain on the reputation of the county. And it causes harm to the people of Clackamas County. And Ben, who's unfortunately not here, in his own words from the last beating meeting, sorry, that felt like a beating meeting, business meeting, people make mistakes. But abusing a vulnerable population in a predatory way is unconscionable. Now, that was said in reference to Ms. Fireside, which I agree with. But however, in this case, this board's lack of action has caused Clackamas County employees to be vulnerable ourselves. For the average Clackamas County employee, that sudden gap in wages is the difference between treading water and drowning. I would encourage this board to act quickly so that we can come to a mutually beneficial agreement between our two parties so that we can get back to providing the critical services that our county deserves. I appreciate you, I appreciate your service, and thank you for your time. And I hope you enjoy my nice sign.
I'll keep it. Yeah. Can you give it to Gary?
Next, Danny Stanham Thomas. Danny.
Could you give it to Gary if you don't mind? Yeah.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for your time today. My name is Danny Stanham Thomas. I'm Director of the Early Learning Hub here in Clackamas County. We are seated within H3S at CFCC. Our team does vital work to make sure that families in this county have access to services, supplies that they need to take care of their children. We connect families with preschool. We support the development of childcare, which, as you all know, Clackamas County is a childcare desert. Our families desperately need us working to increase their access. If we are not working, we can't do that. Every member of my team, myself included, is represented in the Employee Association. If we go on strike, we are not able to do the work that we love to do for our community. Commissioner Schrader, you know how vital childcare is, how many conversations we've had about how important it is that we get to keep doing the great work we're doing. Our work is funded by the state and federal government. These retro COLA has already been in my budget. I've set aside money in my grant for these items. If we do not see that retro COLA, that money goes back to the state. They do not want the money back. They want the money to go to the really great work that we're doing here and all of the really great work we get to do in our communities with public health partners in H3S to serve families with all of the people who are in the EA as well, serving families. I want to do that work. I hope and I know that you value that and that you will show that by showing up and getting us a fair contract that includes retro COLA so that we can keep doing what we do for Clackamas County families. Thank you.
This is a final call. Once again, this is a final call. If you are attending this meeting in person today, would like to speak during the public testimony period and have not yet had the chance to do so yet, I'm asking to please at this time fill out a blue card and deposit it at the box by the door. Mr. Chair, seeing no more blue cards for in-person testimony, with your permission, I'll move forwards with online testimony. If you are attending this meeting virtually and would like to speak, I'll ask you to please raise your hand, and I will call on you in the order that I see. I'll unmute you, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. First, I see Michelle Shimke. Michelle Shimke, I will unmute you, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Michelle Shimke, and I am here again today in solidarity with the Clackamas County EA, which has already been said, is comprised of over 1,300 members. Thank you for this opportunity to express my deep sadness and frustration in still not having a contract. I am here today to ask you to join our mediation session on Monday, March 24th. The union has been told during mediation sessions that decisions cannot be made because the county's negotiation team does not have the authority to make contract agreements without you, the commissioners. So we need you there. According to the Clackamas County Strategic Plan, quote, by 2026, 15% increase in jobs that meet the self-sufficiency standard wage. Please follow your own plan by giving me and my colleagues in the EA our COLA back pay, which we deserve and are owed, as this is a self-sufficient wage. Also in the strategic plan, it states the county strives to build public trust through good governance and transparency. Increasing my insurance premium with 4 days' notice is not transparent. Stonewalling our bargaining team by not showing up to mediation sessions so no decisions nor progress can be made, this is not building public trust, but destroying it, and it is not leading with transparency. There is a lot I cannot say here, but I can no longer stay silent about the recent unfair treatment against my union and our members, the misuse of power, and the unempathetic leadership that this county is doing. Why is it you have settled every other Clackamas County union contract with retroactive COLA pay except for the 1,300 members in the CEA? This is the unfair treatment I am referring to. Why is it you are denying our COLA back pay when it is already included in the county's approved fiscal budget? Not only that, but you continue to take $220 out of my monthly income for a premium increase I was given 4 days notice of and no warning of an open enrollment. Furthermore, we had a couple of weeks in which management was instructed to not approve nor deny sick or vacation time after March 29th. Luckily, thank you, Gary, this has been rescinded, but I cannot tell you the amount of stress that it put on your employees for 1 to 2 weeks while this was going on. This is the misuse of power I am referring to. Why is it Clackamas County is the last county in the Tri-Met area to close its offices during the snowstorm in February, even after all Clackamas County school districts were closed? This is the unempathetic leadership I am referring to. I want to again have trust in the county's leadership. I want to again be a proud employee of Clackamas County, but I cannot say that either of those things are true at this time. Please follow up your words with action and show up to Monday's meeting. Thank you for your time and attention.
Next, Jane Littlefield. Jane Littlefield, I'll unmute you and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi there. Good morning, Chair Roberts and Commissioners Savas and Schrader. My name is Jane Littlefield and I live in Oregon City. I would like to advocate that the board considers how its values and commitments to the county are reflected in the candidates you review for appointment to the board. Whenever a big decision needs to be made, I believe using a framework that centers the values of an organization is necessary, especially so in times when collaboration and transparency are extra important. I was curious about the qualifications expected of a commissioner, so I checked out the recruitment memo. What I don't see reflected in those qualifications is any language addressing the values that Clackamas County employees are expected to bring to work. And I'm hearing wonderful Clackamas County employees this morning. In case anyone listening is like, what values? Clackamas County does have a set of guiding values. They are listed on the core values page of the county's website, and they include service, professionalism, integrity, respect, individual accountability, and trust. And how those values show up through actions is further explained on that page. In addition to values, of course, I hope you will also take different types of data into consideration as you make this big decision. Community members let their values and expectations for leadership be known in the recent election. They overwhelmingly elected you, Chair Roberts, because of your promise to restore integrity and accountability to government and to do what's right for our community. Real data regarding what is right for our community exists too. Shout out to the county for caring about and funding this type of research. The findings in the recent Cultivating Belonging in Clackamas County report are amazing, as are the calls to action that everyday people and government entities can take to ensure that all of us belong and are reflected in this county. In that report, one call to action stands out in particular to me because of this opportunity of a commission appointment. That call to action is to, quote, recruit people into staff and leadership positions who reflect the diversity of communities in Clackamas County. Circling back to values, please use this opportunity of a leadership position appointment to model the county's value of service by advancing the clearly communicated and data-driven needs of your community. I know our community really cares about this appointment. Before I end, I also want to give a shout out to all the Clackamas County EA Union members. Thank you for your service. You deserve our leaders' support. I am certainly moved by what I have heard today, and I am in solidarity with you.
This is a final call. If you are attending this meeting virtually and would like to speak during the public comment portion and have not yet had the opportunity to do so, I'll ask you to please raise your hand. Again, this is a final call. If you are attending this meeting virtually and would like to speak, please raise your hand. Mr. Chair, I see no more for in-person or virtual testimony today.
Great, thank you, Andrew. Gary, you have a comment?
Yes, Chair, I request or suggest a very short break now before you come back to comment, and then the rest of the agenda, because you have a lot left on your agenda today.
All right, thank you. So I will now close the public communication portion of this meeting. We'll take a short recess and we'll be right back. Thank you. All right, we'll be back in session, and I wanted to open it up for commissioners' comments after the public comments. Do either one of my colleagues want to make a comment?
Just a couple. One is that.
Commissioner Savas, I'm sorry, would you mind speaking into your mic, please?
I am, actually. Am I not? Lights on.
It is, it's on.
Yeah, it's amplified. So with regard to a majority of the comments, all I know is that we're restricted in communicating and responding, and anything perceived as a violation of that is, our hands are tied. It's unfortunate that we can't address some of the things that are brought forth, and we can't correct some of the misunderstandings, obviously. That said, I do want to, I know that Mr. Edgar's not here, but we're working on the homeless shelter, the village next door, that's about to open. We're working on a number of things about to open. I believe we do have places actually in county where people can go. So I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but I just want to say that, you know, waiting this long and having the person gone and to respond is a little bit, you know, I won't say not most convenient, right, to address it. But unless anyone wants to add anything, Gary, about that, and I'm sure you want to rely on staff, but I don't think we're really prepared to really address that. But, you know, we have a lot of things underway. I wish we would have gotten things done, a lot more done 8 years ago. Okay. So, but we have made a lot of progress, but, you know, I think it's been a little bit slow. And I was hoping to have one of those open in January this year, but that's been delayed as well. So I'll leave it there. Chair, I yield back.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for coming today. We all value our employees. I know the important work they do, and I am hopeful that this can be resolved sooner than later. Negotiations are always difficult, but that's why they're called negotiations. And I echo, Paul, what you said about Mr. Egder. But let's not forget the recovery center as well, which would allow us to have a spot where people could go and immediately in crisis get the treatment they need, or at least, you know, start to get that kind of a ball rolling. So.
Thank you, Commissioner. One of the things I just wanted to kind of respond to is a lot of the heartfelt testimony today. And I just want the employees to know I hear you, and I value your work all the way from our janitors all the way to our physicians. And I think everybody provides in a very important role. And I can just tell you, I spent 25 years in the union. I was one of those individuals working graveyard, made sacrifices for my family, and I know what that feels like. And to really kind of serve our community. So it means a lot to me, the important work that all of you do. And I am very hopeful of coming to a place where we can all be happy with where this lands. I want to say that one of the big issues too I heard is if there is complaints about any kind of retaliation, I cannot encourage you enough that the direction I've given to Gary and talking with him is that we will look into every complaint. But you have to contact Gary. And I would just emphasize that if there is where somebody feels like they're being retaliated against, that to please follow up with Gary, and we will look into it and make sure that we can get to the bottom of it. So Gary, thank you for following up on a number of issues for us. And then two other quick components. I just always, I want to make myself available 24/7, 365. So I will be wherever Gary or wherever I can be to help put this thing to rest. And I also want to have further conversations with my colleagues about what was said today. So again, we're listening, and I will just end it with that. And Gary, I guess and any other comments, or we'll move on to other business?
Ready to move on, Chair.
All right. What's up next?
All right, next is a presentation on Metro Supportive Housing Services Fiscal Year 2024 Regional Report. Mary Rumbaugh, Director of Health, Housing, Human Services, would you please start it off and also introduce our guests, please?
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. It is my pleasure to introduce staff and members of the Metro Supportive Housing Services Oversight Committee to present the third annual update to the board. They'll be covering fiscal year 23-24. To present today, we have two co-chairs of the Oversight Committee, Dr. Mandrell Taylor and Mike Savara, as well as Yesenia Delgado, Supportive Housing Services Manager of Metro. The Metro Supportive Housing Services Regional Oversight Committee provides independent and transparent oversight of the fund. The committee makes sure the fund is fulfilling its goals and is required to present annual reports to the Metro Council and to the boards of commissioners of Clackamas, Multnomah, and Washington County regarding the program's successes, challenges, and outcomes. I would like to turn this over to Yesenia Delgado, again, Supportive Housing Services Manager of Metro.
Hello there, Commissioners. Thank you so much for having us here today. I am really pleased to be here with the co-chairs to provide an overview of the third annual regional report. As you all know, the voters passed here in the Metro region a historic measure designed to establish a regional homeless system of care in partnership with Clackamas, Washington, and Multnomah County. In other words, we were tasked and are building a regional system of care with local infrastructure and implementation. And one of the requirements via the SHS work plan and IGAs is that each county submits to Metro and the Oversight Committee an annual report by October 31st of every year for the previous year. And these annual reports at a really high level share an update on how programs were implemented, how finances were spent in alignment to the requirements of SHS. As the Oversight Committee and Metro staff are reviewing these reports, the Oversight Committee then, who was charged by Metro Council to provide independent oversight for the SHS fund, then reviews these reports and creates what is called their annual regional report. So these reports at a high level provide a detailed evaluation of each county's annual reports for consistencies with their local implementation plans, as well as their progress towards the regional goals set forth in the requirements. This report also tracks challenges, opportunities, and provides their recommendations for how to improve oversight and accountability in the next year programs. So the Oversight Committee presented their report and the recommendations to Metro Council earlier this month. They approved those recommendations, and today they are really here to kind of kick off a presentation to you all that will provide an overview of the highlights, successes, and the recommendations for the regional report. You all have the regional report with you. I encourage you that if you have any other questions that you dive in further. But with that, I will just introduce Mike and Dr. Taylor, who will be leading the presentation, and much thank you to them for being here and all the great work that they do throughout the year to provide oversight for this fund.
Thank you very much.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Chair, members of the Commission. Good to be with you all. For the record, my name is Mike Savara. I am one of the co-chairs of the Supportive Housing Services Oversight Committee. And it's good to be with you to talk more about our recommendations for this year. Quickly pull up my notes. So I think we're on the right slide. If we can go to the next slide, actually, we can keep moving. We're going to try and move through the presentation a little bit quicker this morning, so there might be some information we kind of move through quickly, but feel free to stop and ask questions at any point. So today, like Yesenia mentioned, we are going to be talking through the overview of our recommendations in our annual report, some of the highlights, as well as really just those key recommendations like we mentioned. If we can go to the next slide. Really quickly on the role of the SHS Oversight Committee, it is designed by the Supportive Housing Services measure to provide independent program oversight on behalf of Metro Council. It's a group of up to 15 leaders with lots of diverse experiences across the field that really support from various different aspects of the supportive housing services system. It is really a key part of where accountability can come into this measure, and we really see our role as supporting, ensuring what taxpayers voted for is actually happening. It's a really key part of our role here. So we can go to the next slide. Quickly on some of the regional goals, so the supportive housing services measure set these high-level goals at the onset of the measure, and Metro Council essentially is tracking against these goals every year. And so you're going to see some data today about how we're performing overall as a region towards these goals. You can see that key parts of the measure ask to reduce barriers for housing stability for communities of color, recognizing the disparities that often exist across our region for communities of color and accessing housing support services, connect at least 5,000 households experiencing homelessness to permanent housing. This is known as Population A. We can get more into the details of that if needed, and then stabilize at least 10,000 households at risk of or experiencing homelessness, and that's Population B. Additionally, you'll see that there are additional metrics each year that counties provide that go into more of the weeds of how the programs work. So that's where you'll see things like creating shelter opportunities or other opportunities that are more programmatic in nature. You can go to the next slide. Key highlights that we wanted to mention is really just that this is the third year of the SHS implementation. And in large strokes, we've really seen that we're past that initial phase of implementation, and we are moving quickly into really trying to hone the interventions, hone the program, and understand its overall effectiveness, really take a step back and understand what we need to do to continue to deliver for results for folks. Contracting continues to be a key aspect of the program. Counties have contracted with 103 unique providers, including 19 culturally specific organizations to deliver services in year 3. All 3 counties have made improvements in contract administration practices to reduce invoicing processes, to make sure that providers are getting paid quickly and on time, which has been a key aspect of the program to make sure our providers are getting what they need. We've also seen improvements in terms of how the overall system functions to improve those tri-county planning bodies and really improve the overall operations of the system to increase the effectiveness of the work. If we can go to the next slide. This is a slide that kind of talks about the regional performance goals. So this is, again, as a region, not Clackamas County specific, this data is. You can see here broadly, we are reaching many of the goals that were set out for us in 23-24 across the 3 counties. Areas where we've seen overperformance and really deep levels of supports, homelessness prevention. You can see the counties were able to serve far more households than expected. We created more shelters than expected as well, and overperformed there. Areas where we lagged behind and missed the goals are in creating supportive housing services units or vouchers, and then also those permanent supportive housing placements. And so this is, again, a lesson for us to really continue to think about how we're building out the system that each county needs independently and working towards those regional goals. I will pass to Dr. Taylor for the next section.
All right, so also for the record, Dr. Mandrell Taylor, a clinical addiction psychiatrist, public health physician, a resident of Clackamas County, also serving as co-chair of the Oversight Committee. So today I'm going to guide us through a financial overview of the SHS Fund for the fiscal year of 2024. If you see here, this is a financial snapshot about how to kind of understand how our funding strategies have been aligning with program goals and priorities. So collectively, counties have received $309.8 million in new tax collections, and out of that, Clackamas County specifically has received $66.1 million, which is 21.3% of the total. So of course, there's Multnomah, Washington, and Metro for tax collection costs and administrative services. And in addition to what you're seeing here, there's also $350 million in the prior year carryover with additional revenue sources coming from interest grants and other miscellaneous, but really the big takeaway from the slide is despite that we had a slight dip in the collections compared to the year prior, overall revenue remained strong, and it's allowed Clackamas County to maintain and expand its housing services and support programs. Next slide. So this is taking a closer look at program spending over the first 3 years. And as you can see here, the program spending doubled from year 2 to year 3, and it really demonstrates a significant scale up in service capacity. There's also this expenditure breakdown. County partners spent about 80% of their budget for the fiscal year of 2024. The largest spending categories, which we'll go into a little bit in the next slide, but short-term housing assistance, which made up, I think, nearly a quarter of expenditures regionally, shelter outreach and permanent supportive housing. Really, more of a takeaway is that the significant increase in spending really, again, demonstrates how quickly Clackamas has been able to scale up housing solution while maintaining a balance between emergency support and long-term stability. Next slide. So this is us delving deeper into the details of the expenditure. And so this slide provides a county-level breakdown of the expenditures from different service categories. And so you can see here, like I mentioned before, you see the top 3 categories. And so the regional investments more or less align with what Clackamas County's strategic focus has been. You know, there's a little bit more of a focus on the long-term rent assistance, but more or less they aligned. So, you know, looking at these expenditures on a more detailed level, we can see how Clackamas, again, sort of continues to balance its investment of emergency responses as well as permanent supportive housing. Next slide. This focuses on administrative costs and financial management. So in being in the oversight committee, one of our roles is to review the administrative costs for metros, for counties, and for providers. And so administrative costs, admin costs, you know, that'll include office rent, legal fees, accounting services, and other operational expenditures that are required to manage programs. So just kind of as a quick review, Metro has recommended admin costs stay below 5%, and Clackamas County, as well as other counties, have really maintained an admin cost of 2.3% of the total revenue. So, you know, you've met and exceeded the bar. The majority of funding contracts used the county de minimis admin rates, which are different from county to county. For Clackamas, it's 10%. I believe for Washington, it's 12%. These rates will soon increase to 15%, which aligns with more federal guidelines. But it's really just showing that the far majority of them have been met with the recommendation. And so by keeping these admin costs low, Clackamas has ensured that the vast majority of the funds do go directly to housing and supportive services, and that ultimately maximizes the impact for our community. Next slide.
Great, thank you so much. So this slide really just digs into some more information. As part of that measure we talked about, the voters really asked us to focus on the equitable distribution of resources as well. And so this slide gets at a little bit of the data across the region, and it compares the 2023 point-in-time count, which is a way of understanding who experiences homelessness on a single night. Every couple of years, the federal government requires us to do a count, and it is able to disaggregate that by race and ethnicity. You can see here these results are showing that we are continuing to meet that objective that the supportive housing services measure lays out for us in terms of supporting people of color across the region who've experienced disparities in accessing housing and support services. We're also ensuring that we're continuing to provide equitable services to every member of the region that needs these services. If we can go to the next slide, this breaks out the information a little bit more. You can see how the number of culturally specific providers that each county has started to contract with is really outlining how much resources are going to those organizations, and then also how those organizations, how many organizations are available. So I think this is a really important slide to show that growth of the partnerships across the different regions and building those connections with diverse communities to increase trust and support for those that they're trying to serve. If we can go to the next slide. This is a slide that shows a little bit more about how engagement and decision-making bodies that each of the counties have created to support how they allocate resources, design programs. And it helps us to understand who on those bodies and what are their backgrounds and understanding. And so you have a breakdown of the number of people of color as they identify, as well as those with lived experience of homelessness. And you can see that Clackamas County in particular has a great assortment of different backgrounds and experiences voices from people of color as well as lived experience amongst other populations and backgrounds to ensure that we're getting broad understanding of those decision-making processes so that they're providing good recommendations to staff as well as to you and your board as you all are making decisions on implementation. If we can go to the next slide. I think this is Dr. Taylor's.
Okay, so we're focusing specifically on Clackamas County and the performance. As I stated before, significant progress has been made with scaling up efforts, really meeting and exceeding our key goals. Exceeded all the housing and program goals for the fiscal year, successfully implemented nearly all the work plan goals, I think with just maybe one remaining area, but really expanding culturally specific services and improving coordination with providers. So it is just worth noting that the county has been doing an excellent job in that. Next slide. But as with anything, there are challenges. There will always be challenges, particularly with system design. So there is a growing need. So despite the progress with housing placement and homelessness prevention, there are broader systemic factors that are pushing people into homelessness. A good takeaway stat to remember after the presentation is said and done is that for every 10 households exiting homelessness into permanent housing, there are 15 new households that are entering it in year 3. So households in need of permanent supportive housing has increased by over 20% since the initiative has been launched, despite the thousands who have already been housed because of the efforts that we've made. There's also competing priorities. There's a need for a balanced resource allocation. The program continues to face these tough choices. There's eviction prevention services to keep people housed, emergency shelter expansion to manage the immediate needs, and there's also the permanent supportive housing investments to create the long-term solutions. So there needs to be a system, some centralized, maybe integrated system that compiles and analyzes these data on the system needs and the gaps. So when policy and program decisions are made, they can be fully informed ones. There's financial oversight, which is needed, and I'm going to try to go a little bit quicker here, as well as regional evaluation as well, which I think we'll go into a little bit more so when we discuss the recommendations. So next slide. So in conclusion, we are addressing the challenges, the critical successes, financial transparency, data consistency, evaluation framework. There's multiple focuses that we always keep in mind. But we'll kind of take this one step at a time. So there's regional priorities. There's a broad. When we think about regional priorities, they should be informed by a broad range of community voices, grounded in comprehensive data. Things to perhaps reflect upon. Decision-making, it should be inclusive. Counties, service providers, other stakeholders coming together to discuss, to align with the priorities. And they should be rooted in something. The local implementation plan, the work plans that are made, understanding the context of the funds. This doesn't just exist in a vacuum. There should be coordination with other available funding sources. Understanding what the regional county needs are and where the gaps are helps you make better decisions. And as stated before, data-driven decision-making. Having transparency in funding, these are things that are important. So I guess another takeaway is just, when we make these plans, we're not doing them in silos. There should be collaboration with data, discussion, just to ensure that we're effective in what we do. Next slide. All right, oversight and accountability. So ensuring oversight and accountability, it's essential, it's needed not only for efficiency, it's needed for public trust. The focus on performance monitoring and compliance review, having some ongoing evaluation system, just to monitor what the performance is, ensure that what you're spending money on, it aligns with the priority. Like I mentioned beforehand, transparency with reporting, just ensuring that there's accountability measures built into programs, built into initiatives. So it's more than just tracking dollars. When you think about accountability, these are very real people who are being affected by this. So it better ensures that your solutions are real and long-lasting for Clackamas County. Next slide. Okay, judicial partnership in decision-making. Improving the decision-making process. So having clarity with things. So ensuring that we all, the county, and this also falls back on Metro as a region as well, making sure that the definitions that the region is using, that the county is using, are we using the same definitions? Are we having alignment with our standards, with our monitoring tools? Also thinking about reassessing the IGA, the intergovernmental agreements that we make. You know, we do the best what we have for the data that we have it when we make these agreements, but with everything, some of these things should be reviewed over and thought about. Building trust and transparency, just effective coordination should be rooted in a mutual trust with counties and with Metro. So continuing to work on that mutual trust for both of those entities, working towards shared commitments with dialogue and with problem solving. And also, you know, in the interim, while we'll figure out what a new IGA perhaps would look like, us as an oversight committee too, we should probably commit ourselves to having more of a clear process about decisional authority whenever there's gridlock and those issues. So, you know, continue to just sort of think about what all of our mutual role needs to be when we're coming together and having a collaborative initiative. Next slide.
Great, thank you so much. So last couple slides here, and we'll take any questions you may have. So this recommendation is really just around the importance of data. We know that as transparency and accountability are key values of both the measure as well as our regional governments, we need to be able to provide data on the outcomes and really provide that trust that folks really need to rely on. And so as this measure has gone on, we've seen this really critical aspect of being able to have consistent regionalized data to ensure that we're actually able to report on and understand the decisions that we're making and the impact they have. And so this is a recommendation that really just gets at building out regional agreement on how data works, how we talk about it, and really building that those key areas of alignment across the region. If we can go to the next slide. And then this last recommendation is really just around provider partnerships. We recognize that none of this work would be possible without the amazing system of providers, nonprofits, and folks that are actually doing this work every single day out on the streets. We need to be able to have firm ways of providing them the support as well as the input that they can provide the counties, provide Metro, and provide the Oversight Committee for those key decisions that we're trying to make. And so really making sure that we're thinking about those things we talked about before, contract administration, paying invoices on time, improving the experience of those providers as they interface with government is a really key aspect of this. I will round out, we had a story that we wanted to kind of get into, but we're a little bit crunched on time. Just to say that the staff of the Clackamas County Housing Authority have been providing such key supports, and as funded by the Metro Supportive Housing Services Committee, to provide supports for so many residents. And these services are invaluable for folks. And just wanted to uplift the amazing staff of Clackamas County's team supporting so many different aspects of the work. With that, we'll take any questions you may have.
All right. Commissioner Schrader has a question.
Yeah, a few observations, maybe two as well. So we have the oldest housing authority in the state of Oregon, and I think that we have been providing data all along, but my question is, in the measure itself, I think they had a timeline for when that data would be presented. Has that been met by the region, those specific times when this analysis was supposed to happen? Because my understanding is that those benchmarks or those timelines have not been met. And I'd like some assurance or some clarity as to is that an accurate assumption on my part? Yeah.
Great question.
Yeah.
Hello, Commissioner. I believe, are you referring to perhaps the data sharing timelines that are in the intergovernmental agreements?
Yes, and I'm not, I believe that's what I'm talking about, and I know that we have, with our staff, have excellent information and data that we have been, but there has not yet been a comprehensive, at least to my knowledge, report on all that data that we've been sharing. And what's been the, I guess my question is, what's been the holdup with that?
Yeah, no, great question, and you are correct. Clackamas County is collecting a plethora of data, really robust data, and there wasn't a deadline in the IGA of by when we would have a data sharing agreement between the counties and Metro. We didn't quite hit that deadline, but we have made really great progress. We have landed on a data sharing agreement. Actually, staff from your county joined Metro Council, I believe it was about a month ago, to give an update on where we're at with that agreement. So those agreements are out now at each of the counties. I think we're just waiting on signatures, but they are really close to being finalized and signed, and being able to, for Metro to have that data now at the regional level will really support in some of the work that the co-chairs were describing around oversight and analysis and evaluation for the measure.
Okay, but I was right that it's been a little bit, bit of a bumpy ride at this point, kind of trying to get there and make sure that that data is presented and that we're all on the same page with it. But that now is in process, and those agreements are in place. So I was at MPAC last night, and they were also talking about, if I can recall this, everything's a blur right now, about the state mandate that Metro is supposed to come up with, again, another comprehensive regional collaboration plan, whatever they're calling it, to increase housing and all these services across the 3 counties. And my concern was, again, we have a housing authority that has been extremely successful in pushing forward and doing these kinds of activities. And my concern is, given the federal issues that we're facing now, and cuts, and housing and human, HUD in particular, which has been our main framework for a good portion of what we do for getting those dollars for the housing, for the services, for all of that. How is that going to work with a regional approach? And will individual counties potentially be losing, well, maybe losing dollars anyway, but with a regional umbrella in place, is that going to, you believe, could that exacerbate the problem of having this grand vision, but not necessarily having the revenue streams that we depend on at the federal and state level? I think the state will do as much as it can, but the federal level. Has anybody considered that? And has anybody thought about how to solve that particular dilemma, which I think might be imminent at this point? So.
Yeah, no, great question. Thank you so much. I believe the presentation that you're referencing from last night was the regional housing coordination strategy.
Exactly.
Does that sound right? Yeah. So absolutely. I mean, I think as part of that work that we're doing with the state to stay aligned across the region to create this strategy, it will engage a lot of engagement with the 3 different counties, with you all, to see what's happening, what's working. But I don't want to miss this additional context that you're raising around like the federal and like funding and what that all is happening. That is certainly something that we're talking about taking into consideration. I don't think we have
any clarity.
Yeah, we don't have like the right strategies at this point in time to be able to say, like, mostly because we don't really know what's going to happen at the federal level. Every day feels like it could be a new day in terms of what we're hearing. But just please note that we are tracking that and aware of the kind of guardrails that has set forth in this process. But the hope here is that we continue to be as aligned as possible across the 3 counties as we're working on this production analysis.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here today. I remember last year when you all came and gave us a report, I think what I was a little bit stunned by, and it's not a criticism, but it's an observation. I don't know, maybe you could explain a little bit, but, I walked away from the last one thinking, okay, we just saw data that's almost a year old, right? And here we are today looking at a report that was completed in June of last year. And, so what's the challenge in getting something that's fresh or fresher, right, as opposed to something that's, in 2 or 3 months, it'll be a year old, this data.
Yeah, Commissioner Savas, thank you for that question. And I remember your comments from last year, and I will note that last year we were here in May, and this time we're here in March, which isn't that much better. But I think the main challenge with this timeline that we are experiencing is that these reports are due to Metro and the Oversight Committee from the counties on October 31st, so really November. That's an IGA deadline that is placed. And this year, we did a little experiment. The committee met a lot more frequently, like twice a month during the holiday season, to analyze, review, and support these reports to get the regional report actually done, I think probably a month or 2 ahead of schedule than what we had done in previous years. But as you're raising, it still doesn't solve for the fact that this data is about 6, 7, 8 months old at the time now that we're coming to these presentations. The recommendations are coming in right as you all are doing budget planning, which doesn't solve for. So just know that we are, at this point, we tried something new, but I think that deadline of not getting those reports till the end of October is really, I think, where there's an opportunity to maybe make that sooner, so the Oversight Committee has the additional time sooner in the year to review and analyze the reports.
Okay, well, thank you. So I know that Commissioner West is not here today, but I strongly believe, without a doubt, that all 4 of us on the dais, or they're on the commission today, are very passionate and really care about doing the best we can. And I took to heart your comments about for every 10 people we move out of homelessness, we have 15 coming in. So that's kind of a daunting number. So I appreciate that data. With that said, I think the reason I'm pointing out the timeline of the reports is because, last year and even now, we're still ramping up, right? And maybe that line or that incline's a little bit a year later, right? We're not doing as much ramp up. We're still ramping up. So my anguish was last year that it wasn't reflective of all the good work we've done. And now it's more evident as we get along, but that's the reason I think we need a message, positive messages where we have positive results, and I think we need to understand and have the data in areas that were weak so we can do better sooner, right? So, I've talked to members on the Oversight Committee over the years, one of them actually Saturday night, and my concern about, number one, how data is displayed, which I know is part of the data sharing concern. We're sharing the data, but how it's displayed, I think is absolutely, in my experience, creating a lot of confusion that maybe we're not doing enough. Now, I'll give you an example. Look at page 89, of the slide on page 89 of the report. And Andrew, if you can find that, that'd be great if you're monitoring that. But what it shows there, it shows a bar chart, and it shows the regional FY 23-24 program expenditures. And blue for Clackamas, about that wide, let's just say, and then Multnomah that much, and Washington County EA. Now, that's really, it makes it look like comments I've received. It makes it look like we're doing very little when we're actually, I won't say 90%, but actually that's not a bad, it displays it incorrect, the visual is incorrect. It is not reflective that we're doing good work. We're not that far behind or behind at all from the other 2 counties, right? So maybe it ought to be, exactly, so maybe it ought to be more a percentage of a effectiveness or something that displays it so that the average person can look at it and comprehend and realize that, it's not really clear. And we're actually spending the money and doing the work, right? So that's one thing. And the other question I have, or comment, or request, it's a request, and this is part of the frustration I've heard of the Oversight Committee, and that is that they feel that a lot, not all of them, I can't speak for all of them, only speaking for a couple, that a lot of them feel as though that their comments are not really being entertained or collected. And are all those comments or recommendations actually compiled so that even though they weren't acted on, we can actually see them? Because I don't want some people to feel as though their work is not valued if their work is not really reflected. So whether that's they don't have that much control. They can only make the comments, right? They're not decision makers. I understand the role of the Oversight Committee, but I think I believe in empowering people, especially volunteers, to make sure their time is worthwhile and their input's valued and everyone hears it. But I really think it'd be valuable to look at a compilation of all of that input. And some of that input has been along the lines of mental health treatment and drug addiction treatment, detox, and all of that, which partially is a state thing. This measure wasn't designed to treat that, but it really goes to population A more than population B. And if we're going to really be successful, that's a huge gap that the report doesn't cover. And I know it's not the role, but it should be pointed out, and I think it's some detail that, geez, we need more infrastructure, and some of that infrastructure is either state funded or state provided. And that gap is, I don't know the exact reasons of, sir, your very relevant point about 10 people going out of the system, which is good news, but the bad news is 15 more coming in. I know part of that's economic. I don't know how much that is drug addiction. I don't know how much that is mental health. I don't know what systems are failing that's causing that. But I would love the analysis to better understand that, because if we don't understand how or why, I'm not sure we're going to be effective. So I hope those are constructive comments. I really appreciate all of you and appreciate the presentation. So please take credit where it's intended here. If that makes any sense, or you got any either challenge me or push back, I want to make sure that I'm hearing you and we're hearing each other, and see if there's a way to get there.
Appreciate those comments. The concern about data storytelling has come up beforehand. Ensuring that you can have the data, you can even curate the data, but the way in which you present the data does affect the way that the data is received. That is something that and again, based on your comments here as well, we will continue to make that a high priority to keep that in consideration as a dimension. The drivers of homelessness. We're getting to a point now where, again, it is outside somewhat the purview of what we do, but there needs to be maybe a little bit more tipping of the hat and acknowledging the role of which that is impacting our efforts. And although maybe not exactly what was baked into this measure, it's almost a sort of unavoidable, like climate, like when storm clouds are coming. Maybe we didn't plan for those storm clouds, but they come anyway. So, ensuring that we at least acknowledge the importance of understanding that when we think about future policies. Again, probably on your level more so than mine, but certainly can be something that we think about how best to incorporate that into either with our presentations or with our report. But you're right. It is this very unavoidable topic that does need some more focus.
Yeah, thank you for that. I just want to close with this, and no response needed, but as you mentioned, the storm clouds, I'll just take your analogy there. It's daunting to know that, number one, the storm clouds are coming, but at the same time, talking about a reduction in revenues to help address that is further daunting, right? And I'm not sure that there's reports or data that is actually absorbed by some of the decision makers that are driving towards making this smaller when the clouds are getting bigger and stormier. So thank you for your comments. Much appreciated.
So I just have a couple quick ones, and thank you for sitting through. We've had a lot of testimony today, and appreciate you being here. And I wanted to also kick it off. I really appreciate data. I feel like it helps drive, and we can always fine tune it and look at different things. I think that you pointed out, looking at the drivers of homelessness and some of those things. I think one of the key things that I've had conversation with the folks at Metro really is trying to educate our public about how those dollars are being spent, and really trying to kind of move forward on that. I have countless people asking, and it is a good way to kind of tell that story. So, and following up a little bit on Paul's comment. You know, I know what it's like to collect data and you're kind of behind, but it does kind of show trends as well. And so I just have kind of two questions for you. On the point in time count, I was out meeting with folks in the field, and just randomly conversations were that they felt like they were seeing a larger increase in senior homelessness. I was just wondering if that's, I know that you might not have that in front of you, but I mean, are you seeing that as an issue? And then my second question really is, really, what do you see as some of the challenges ahead? I mean, you guys look at this data, and just really want to hear your input on that.
Yeah, I can perhaps maybe take on the first one, and then, but yeah, you're absolutely right. I think what you experience at the point in time count is also what we're seeing in multiple data sets, but also hearing from providers and counties that they are seeing a growing need for serving our seniors, and that's due to multiple causes and reasons. I think rents continuing to go up, fixed incomes, but we are seeing that as a growing population that we are to serve. The SHS, given that it's a local measure, it does allow flexibility to prioritize that as a population that we serve. And I know that the 3 counties are working on different programs and different investments, and even some pilot projects that they are deploying to ensure that this population is served in the best way that makes sense for them. So we could totally follow up with some of those additional programs and the work that is happening there.
Great, thank you.
What was the second one?
Oh, more of the challenges that you see, or kind of your thoughts. You're looking at this data, and obviously, any thoughts about that?
Yes, but I mean, I'll try to, I'll scrunch it up. I think that there's always this bigger concern that the silver tsunami, and I mean, it sort of transcends not just with homelessness, but for a far majority of perils, and how the demographics have been shifting that way, and there's a variety of reasons why that's the case, but I think it is probably the start of other things to come. So I think just keeping in mind that there is a changing landscape with that. In terms of other challenges, I think they've been named, a lot of them have already been named, with, you know, perhaps the federal funding issues that are there, you know, the growing rates of these drivers. Some of them have been individually named with, you know, with mental health and you know, with addiction, and obviously, you know, we're getting closer here with the data sharing agreement. So I think there's kind of just like a spattering and collection of things that we're running into. I think we've done a pretty good job of identifying what they are. Do we have strong strategies on how to best address them? Not yet. Not at least not in this level. And hopefully, as we continue with this initiative, we can be better about aligning and collaborating. So for those people who do have solutions, who may actually be, we might be working right next to them, maybe quite close to us, but I think we create a system in which we're able to share not just information, but conversations more so. I think we'll be better about addressing those things. But I appreciate the question nonetheless, and it helps us to think about the best way forward in the future.
Right. And I think the comment that you made too is for those that we're finding housing for, well, on the other end, we have more coming in. So
Yeah.
Paul brought that up. So anyway, we have our work cut out for us. So thank you very much. We really appreciate you, all your time and effort today for coming here, and thank you again.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Right, Gary, what's up next?
Next is the consent agenda. Andrew, would you please read the consent agenda?
Board of County Commissioners consent agenda. Item A, elected officials. 1, approval of previous business meeting minutes for the Board of County Commissioners. 2, approval of a grant application to the Oregon Health Authority for electronic health record systems for Medicaid reimbursement of jail care. Application value is $1,131,653.48. Funding is through the Oregon Health Authority. No county general funds are involved. B, tourism. 1, Approval of a contract amendment with Lawrence PR for media coverage promotion services. Amendment value is $232,000 for 4 years. Total contract value is $290,000 for 5 years. Funding is through transient lodging tax. No county general funds are involved. C, Technology Services. 1, approval of an amendment to a service level agreement with the City of Milwaukee for leased dark fiber connections. Amendment value is $160,382 for 3 years. Total agreement value is $236,807 for 6 years. Funding is through Clackamas Broadband Exchange monthly cable lease revenue. No county general funds are involved. 2, approval of a service level agreement with the Estacada School District for leased dark fiber connection. Total agreement value is $61,200 for 20 years. Funding is through the Clackamas Broadband Exchange monthly cable lease revenue. No county general funds are involved. D, Health, Housing, and Human Services. 1, approval of a revenue intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Health and Science University to provide a community health nurse for special needs children. Agreement value is $78,312 for 1 year. Funding is through Oregon Health and Science University grant funds. No county general funds are involved. 2, approval of an amendment to a personal services contract with MTR Western for the operation of the Last Mile Shuttle program. Amendment value is $1,462,408.87 for 15 months. Total contract value is $4,537,346.69 for 5 years. Funding is through statewide transportation improvement funds. No county general funds are involved. 3, approval of a lease agreement with Clackamas County Children's Commission for the occupancy of the Estacada Head Start building to provide before and after school services for low-income families. Agreement value is $10 for 5 years. Funding is through the Clackamas County Children's Commission. No county general funds are involved. 4, approval of an intergovernmental grant agreement with the Oregon Department of Human Services to educate and enroll Medicare beneficiaries. Agreement value is $12,300 for 1 year. Funding is through the Oregon Department of Human Services. No county general funds are involved. 5, approval of a grant application to the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission for adult drug court treatment services. Grant value is approximately $1,158,277. Funding is through the Criminal Justice Commission. No county general funds are involved. 6, approval of a grant application to the Criminal Justice Commission for driving under the influence of intoxicants treatment court services. Grant value is approximately $275,653. Funding is through the Criminal Justice Commission. No county general funds are involved. 7, approval of a grant application to the Criminal Justice Commission for mental health treatment court services. Grant value is approximately $761,891. Funding is through the Criminal Justice Commission. No county general funds are involved. 8, approval of a local subrecipient grant agreement with Ant Farm for the acquisition of a property to become the Molalla Resource Center and for the provision of shelter services. Agreement value is $735,800 for 4 months. Funding is through Oregon Housing and Community Services. No county general funds are involved. 9, approval of a grant agreement with Trillium Community Health Plan for capital expenses at the Recovery Center. Agreement value is $180,000 for 13 months. Funding is through the Oregon Health Plan. No county general funds are involved. 10, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with TriMet for transportation to essential services for seniors and individuals with disabilities. Contract value is $386,717 for 1 year. Funding is through TriMet. No county general funds are involved. E, transportation and development. 1, approval of a board order for grant application to Oregon Parks and Recreation for construction of a water system at Barton Park. Grant value is $285,000. Funding is through Oregon Parks and Recreation and a 50% required match through Metro Parks and Nature Bond funds. No county general funds are involved. 2, approval of a board of order for a grant application to Oregon Parks and Recreation for construction of a fence at Barton Park. Grant value is $80,550. Funding is through Oregon Parks and Recreation and a 50% required match through Metro Parks and Nature Bond funds. No county general funds are involved. 3, approval of a grant agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation for a Safe Routes to School grant award. Award value is $798,238.08 with a match of $91,361.92 in community road funds. No county general funds are involved. 4, Approval of permanent and temporary easements with Metro for the Stafford Road Improvements Project. Easement compensation value is $137,647. Funding is through Community Road Fund and System Development Charges. No county general funds are involved. 5, approval of a public improvement contract with West Tech Construction for the Stafford Road, Petullo Way to Rosemont Road construction project. Contract value is $10,066,942.17 for 4 years. Funding is through Community Road Funds, House Bill 2017 Safety Funds, and System Development Charges. No county general funds are involved. F, Finance. 1, approval of a board order to issue a purchase order to Platt Electric Supply for 4 heating and cooling system switchboards and associated gear. Purchase order value is $557,258.05. Funding is through budgeted county general funds and is eligible for a 50% reimbursement from the Oregon Courthouse Capital Construction Improvement Fund. Mr. Chair, that concludes the consent agenda.
That was a lot, thank you. Do any of my colleagues wish to remove any item from the consent agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion?
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All right. Commissioner Schrader has moved to approve the consent agenda. It's been seconded by Commissioner Savas. And any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, would you please call the poll?
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Gary, what's up next?
Chair, would you please convene as the Development Agency Board of Directors?
All right, I'll now recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the Board of the Development Agency.
This next is the Development Agency Consent Agenda. Andrew, I'll read it. Item A. A, approval of an amendment to an intergovernmental agreement with Water Environment Services for the Southeast Monroe Street Improvements Project. Amendment value is $6,200 for 6 months. Total agreement value is $215,940 for 2 years. Funding is through Water Environment Services. No county general funds are involved. Mr. Chair, that is the consent agenda.
Right. Do any colleagues wish to remove anything? Seeing none, can I have a motion?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right. Commissioner Savas has moved to approve the Development Agency consent agenda. It's been seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, would you please call the poll?
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0, Mr. Chair.
All right, Gary, we're going to keep moving along here. What's next?
Convene as the Water Environment Services Board of Directors, please.
All right, I will now adjourn as a Development Agency Board and convene as the Water Environmental Services Board of Directors.
This is the Water Environment Services consent agenda. I'll read it, Andrew. Give you a break. You did a great job on the prior ones. Item A, approval of an amendment to an intergovernmental agreement with the Development Agency for the Southeast Monroe Street Improvements Project. Amendment value is $6,200 for 6 months. Total agreement value is $215,940 for 2 years. Funding is through Water Environment Services, Sanitary Sewer Construction Fund. No county general funds are involved. B, approval of a contract with R.L. Reimers Company for pump station construction for the Intertie 2 Pump Station Expansion Project. Contract value is $8,178,775 for 2 years. Funding is through Water Environment Services, Sanitary Sewer Construction Funds. No county general funds are involved. Mr. Chair, that concludes the Water Environment Services consent agenda.
All right. Do any colleagues wish to remove any item from the agenda? I'm seeing none. Can I have a motion, please?
I move we approve the Water Environment Services consent agenda as read.
Second.
All right. Director Schrader has moved to approve the Water Environmental Services consent agenda. It's been seconded by Commissioner Savas. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, would you please call the poll?
Director Savas.
Aye.
Director Schrader.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0, Mr. Chair.
All right, Gary.
One more. Would you please convene as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Board of Directors?
All right. I will now adjourn as the Water Environmental Services Board of Directors, and now we're convening as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreational District Board of Directors.
This is the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District consent agenda. I'll read this. Item A, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with Sunrise Water Authority for a new aquifer and wellhead control systems building in Sebin Park. Agreement value is $2,316 annually in perpetuity with a 3% yearly increase. Funding is through Sunrise Water Authority. No county general funds are involved. Mr. Chair, that concludes the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District consent agenda.
Thank you. Any colleagues wish to remove anything from the agenda? I'm seeing no. May I have a motion?
I move to approve the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District consent agenda.
Second.
All right. Director Savas has moved to approve the North Clackamas Parks and Rec District consent agenda, seconded by Commissioner Schrader. And any further discussion? I'm seeing none. Clerk, would you please call the poll?
Director Schrader.
Aye.
Director Savas.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0, Mr. Chair.
Back at you, Gary.
Would you please reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners, Chair?
All right. Thank you. I will now adjourn as the North Clackamas Parks and Rec District Board of Directors and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners. Gary.
Next is County Administrator update. I'll skip my report in the interest of time, other than to announce the board will be on recess next week, March 24 to 27, 2025. There'll be no board business meetings next week. The next board business meeting will be Thursday, April 3rd at 10 a.m. That is my report. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you. So at this time, it looks like let's begin Commissioner communication. Commissioner Schrader.
Sure. I just have a brief communication. I'm back in the saddle at Metro. It's like Groundhog Day and deja vu, but it was fun to be back and meet with people again and be part of that organization. And I'm looking forward to working hopefully even a little more closely with Paul Savas, because we'll try and figure out how we combine land use and transportation as well, because you're going to continue to serve on JPAC. Other than that, I really appreciated the retreat last week where we all got together, and we're coming together with our plan for the year and the value statements that pull us together as a commission. And looking forward to that. Looking forward to that as well. Other than that, I'm just doing a lot of reading for this county. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, I'll keep it short. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of reading between all the emails coming in about one side or different viewpoints from one angle or another, several different angles regarding either how the vacancy occurred or the state of the vacancy or how to rectify the vacancy. So all of that plus lots of hours on this big meeting this morning that took place at JPAC. So up till, I didn't get to bed till about midnight, 12:30 the last two nights, and got up at 4 o'clock this morning so I could make sure I did all my other homework I had to do before the meeting this morning, then drive out the Metro. Sorry I was a little bit late coming back from Metro, but I'm exhausted, just tired. So, I'm actually late to get in my car and go to another meeting right now, and I don't know where I'll find lunch, but I'll figure it out.
Okay. Take care.
I'll yield back.
All right, well, I'll try and make mine really short. Just a quick update, Martha and I and actually Ben were at NACO, the National Association of Counties in DC. It was kind of a legislative conference, but they also had a lot of updates. Some of the things that were really, I think, important was really some of the work groups on disaster response. They did kind of an after action on the Palisades fire, a lot of lessons learned and some preparedness that I think will, with Gary and other staff that we can look at. Also attended a number of sessions on Medicare cuts, the concerns that will have an impact in a number of different ways, and particularly in our jails. And also AOC, the Association of Oregon Counties, a group of us were back there. We met and went over and met with our congressional delegates to talk about a number of issues. Some of the issues where we met with Merkley Wyden really presented on a lot of Oregon priorities. Some of the issues that I also talked about is on Federal Victims of Crime Act, that's also known as VAWA. Unfortunately, they've had dramatic cuts over the last several years, and so really important to try and get some of those federal dollars that the DA's office gets them for advocates and a number of other reasons. And then just kind of quickly, my colleague Paul Savage and I were at the NAMI Comedy Night, a great fundraiser for the National Alliance of the Mentally Ill. And former Congressman Hooley was there, so it was kind of nice to see her as well. So we're working really hard on budget. Gary's been kind enough. I've been meeting with other directors, and we're doing a big, hard dive, and just want to thank Gary for having me involved in that process as well. So in the interest of time, I'm going to make that is it. And on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners, thank you for joining us, and there's no further business. This meeting's adjourned.